Thursday, March 4th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. No employer can force their workers to take the COVID-19 vaccine. Labour Minister Colin Jordan made the position clear during a press conference last evening as government's national vaccination program continues. He reminded the nation that taking the vaccine was optional. Jordan said while his office had received no official reports about any employers pressuring their employees to get the shot, government's stance on such an act was crystal clear.
I have not had any reports of it, but we have in the ministry and in the Labour Department, we know what our response is. Government has indicated that the vaccine rollout is optional. We strongly encourage people to take the vaccine for their own good, for the good of their relatives and friends, and for the good of the country. However, vaccination is not compulsory. The medical profession have been very clear on that. The Attorney General, I think, also has been very clear, and the Prime Minister has been very clear on that. It is not a mandatory thing, even though we strongly encourage people. So no employer at this point can insist. You use the word coerce. Well, that can mean a number of different things, but at its worst, it could mean that a person is told, if you don't take the vaccine, you don't have a job. Not legal in Barbados today.
Employers and employees must be willing to adapt to the current work environment if businesses are to remain productive and well run during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's according to Chief Labour Officer Claudette Hope Greenwich, who said that the pandemic has caused many businesses to move some of their tasks to being performed from home. She said although the situation may not be ideal for all, employers and employees need to support each other to make the change work.
Need to support employees in the move home, and employees also need to support employers in the move home. So in other words, there needs to be a greater degree of trust between the two parties. A person coming from the department's point of view, and based on the conversations we would have with both camps, an individual does not have to be in the workplace so that you can monitor. If that is just the sole purpose for having the person there, well then, you may be spinning the proverbial top in mud. But we have heard reports from some camps, from the human resources persons, locally as well as internationally, comments have been made that productivity has improved. But I still think we need to be careful there, because productivity can be improving for two main reasons. It is either that persons are at home and they're more comfortable for whatever reason and they're working harder, or they're being called on to work harder.
The board of the National Insurance Scheme is taking steps to become a statutory body. Word of this from Chairman, Queen's Counsel Leslie Haynes. He said that the board had already submitted its request to the Ministry of Finance and was awaiting a decision.
The National Insurance Board is a unique board. It is the only board of a department of central government, so that it is in a strange position that you have a board sets policy, yet the staff, essentially the National Insurance staff, report directly to the Ministry of Finance. So we realize that this COVID has made us realize that in order to better maintain or improve, in order to improve efficiencies at the National Insurance, the board decided or resolved that we should transition to a statutory body rather than remain a department of government. That paper the board paper was sent to the Ministry of Finance within the last week, and we can only hope that the Ministry of Finance, after reviewing the paper, would approve the board's request to transition to a statutory board and take it from there.
The Barbados Port Authority, Inc. is embarking on yet another project to improve its effectiveness and competitiveness as a regional and global hub. Minister of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy, Cook Humphrey, speaking at the launch of a Barbados Port Community System project yesterday, said with the recent upgrades to the island's main seaport, he expected the country's trading across borders ranking to be enhanced. The project, which costs just over $1.3 million, is intended to integrate the electronic flow of trade-related documents and information, as well as function as the centralized hub for the port and other stakeholders.
We recognize that effective deployment of the maritime single window would require a significant amount of business process simplification and re-engineering. Information technology adoption was vital, together with the application of key international standards, rationalization of trade legislation, and significant collaboration between the public sector and the private sector. The management and oversight of this collaborative effort, as you would imagine, demand a sophisticated governance effort. I am happy to say the government shall be introducing legislation shortly to support the full implementation of the FAL Convention as it relates to the use of the maritime single window in Barbados for vessel trading and moving in our space. Hopefully, it is my intention to have this legislation before the Parliament of Barbados by the end of April. It is already in draft, and we are therefore hopeful that we can have it before the Parliament and debate it and pass into legislation. It was also recognized that there was an urgent need to improve the competitive position of our port. The government of Barbados therefore thought it prudent to go beyond the single window with the creation of an overarching enhanced trade facilitation framework in the form of a port community system, PCS.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Two developments in the region now. The Guyana government condemns what it describes as acts of aggression and intimidation by neighboring Venezuela, following claims that two fighter jets entered its airspace earlier this week. The details of that story from Gordon Mosley of News Source, Guyana.
In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said the two Venezuelan Army fighter jets overflew the community of Etteringbank and the airstrip at a very low altitude of 1,500 feet on Tuesday afternoon. The fighter jets circled the location once before proceeding in an easterly direction. The government of Guyana said it condemns the latest acts of aggression by the Venezuelan armed forces as a violation of the sovereignty of Guyana over the air above its territory. The government also said the latest hostility follows closely on the heels of a decree recently issued by President Nicolas Maduro, which purports to establish maritime territory for Venezuela, which encompasses Guyana's territorial waters, Guyana's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, as well as its land territory west of the Essequibo River.
On the international front, the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions by some U.S. states is not sitting well with health experts who have issued strong warnings against such moves. More from CBS News.
Blowback from the Texas governor reopening the state was fast and furious. From the president,
the last thing we need is Neanderthal thinking,
to the CDC director.
And the exact measures we have taken to stop the pandemic are now too often being flagrantly ignored.
And on the ground in Houston, Harris County Judge Lena Hadaba.
I can't sit by quietly while somebody tells my constituents that everything's okay, that life can go back to normal, when I know those words will lead to death.
You believe the governor's loosening of restrictions will lead to more deaths?
Oh, I'm certain of it.
Texas will be one of 16 states without a mask mandate. Mississippi dropped its requirement today. But businesses like Houston's St. Arnold Brewing Company won't be following the governor's guidance.
We are going to follow the CDC guidelines. We disagree with that ruling.
How do you think your clientele will react to your keeping your masks thing in place?
So far, the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. It's really adapting on the fly. And I think bars and restaurants and businesses have been doing that for almost a year now.
Target, Kroger, and Macy's, among retailers, saying they too will still enforce masks in stores. CBS News has learned that CDC will release guidance tomorrow on what fully vaccinated Americans can do, including small gatherings without masks.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.